But in the times that are coming, the school of life shall change and shall no longer carry the weight of these earthly burdens, which you have become so accustomed to. In the light that is forming upon the horizon, you are lifted into a frequency so gently, very gently, within which you may experience yourself encountering all that is from a place of loving self-acceptance. It is a sensation that you are understanding what you are in completion, accepting what you are without resistance. This then negates all karmic understanding and leads you into an experience of yourself manifesting your daily life upon this world from the place of self understanding your own role as creator.
And Tucker, welcome on Just Happen. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Oh my gosh, I feel that the most exciting thing going on right now is the sense of inevitability, the feeling like all roads lead to the same place, that we're all on this path, that everyone around me is moving in the same direction. Like it's almost like if everyone was an energy before going in all different directions, I feel like all of our arrows have turned and aligned to the same place. And we're all on different paths, but we're all going in the same direction. And that feels amazing and exciting. The potential feels exciting to me.
If we were to call that direction a highway, like, the 405 or something like that, what would you call that road that we're all going down right now?
I mean, the first thing that pops in is like so cliche, the path to glory. Like it's so, that's the first thing that passes, but it is this idea of our own, like the way I see it visually is that it's almost like with every breath we get brighter, and it's that sense of how much light can we each hold. And it's this pathway leading towards a deeper understanding of our own expression of the divine. So that's, yeah. So I would like to come up with something like much more original, but as what's popped in my head, it's like, that's it, path to glory. Yeah. It's not a very good word. Maybe we'll come up with something better.
No, I love that one. And it's so interesting because, someone that might see what you're doing right now would have never imagined the past life that you've had in this life, but you had a corporate background working at Microsoft. You were also an executive coach, and you were negotiating some of the largest deals in the tech industry. So fast forward where you started hearing voices, you started seeing things, the psychic phenomena started happening. What negotiations did you have to start having with these beings that were coming to you that were kind of similar to the negotiations that you were doing back in your corporate days?
Oh my gosh. The interesting thing about working with the angels is that it's like the way I think of it is that they have like the infinite patience of the eternal, is that it would literally be like a great example of the whole relationship is that when I first started allowing them to bring through words, you know what I mean? In the beginning, I would just take the word and I'd write it down because they hadn't conditioned my vocal cords yet. In the beginning, it would be like, just bring me a word. And I would see it like a tube above my head where words would come down. And if I doubted myself or I thought that's a weird word or whatever, if I paused, if I didn't write the word down, they would just freeze and they would wait pretty much forever. And that word would just be stuck in that tube and it would never move. And it would be, their assumption would be like, oh, she just needs more time. We'll just stay right here. And it wouldn't be like they wouldn't give me a new word. They'll be like, we'll just wait until she says the word, until she writes that word down. And it's like that with everything. It'll be like if I get off path or if I go down a pathway that is, if I start for whatever reasons having negative thoughts or it's like they just put the pause button. They'll be like, oh, we'll wait till she's back on path. We'll hold this for her right here with the infinite patience. There's no judgment. Right? There's no sense of you're doing it wrong. It's just like, oh, this is her process and she's going to get there. And so it's hard. Like it's funny. It's almost like in some ways I have infinite leeway, and at the same time I have no leeway. So there's no negotiation, I guess, is what it would say. It's the funniest thing, because on one hand they are infinite. They'll allow me to wander off path. They'll tell me, they'll be like, you're off path. Like these choices you're making. Let's show you what choices you're making, or what you're thinking, or what your thoughts are. We'll show you. But then it's always up to me. I have infinite free will. And they are always holding the next step. And the next step doesn't change. It's right there. And it's just like, I just get to choose if I'm going to take it or not. So that's the strangest thing about it, is there's no give and take, right? It is, you have infinite free will, and here's the next step. Do you want to take it or not? Yeah.
And when we're very rooted in our intellectual mind, which happens to me quite often. But when one of my teachers, he says that words are just the costume. So, we're saying all of these words right now. We're, the vocabulary, I can use even more sophisticated words if I knew them or if I wanted to. But at the end of the day, you're just transmitting a frequency when you're communicating. So you mentioned that they had to work, the angels had to work on your vocal cords. And I think it was a process of 4 months where they were working on your vocal cords to attune to a new frequency.
Yeah.
What frequency were they attuning you to? And what was that process like of literally shifting your cords so that you could speak and channel their information?
I mean, the lived experience of it was literally, if I was trying to talk, I would have a scratchy voice all the time. I could talk for about 20 minutes and then literally nothing could come out. Nothing. So there was a physical transformation that was happening to my vocal cords. So it was literally like I had a scratchy, sore throat for 4 months in a row for no reason, no other symptoms, no health symptoms. It was literally, and they told me, we are reconditioning so that and it was this idea, like, I don't know what did they do? How did they change my vocal cords? I can say my voice changed, the way I sound changed. And I can feel when they're pushing frequencies through me now. And the funniest thing, you may have heard, I think I talked about this just recently, but after going through all this, and they've been working on it, and it's a continual process, because it's the vocal cords, but it's also my physical container being able to hold the frequencies. In the beginning, it was a very painful experience to channel the angels. It was extremely, like an extreme amount of pressure that came down to about over my head, down to about here, like squeezing, like you're like almost like under a large body of water, like just massive pressure. And it took me a long time to act, and it would just wipe me out, absolutely exhaust me. And now I can do it. It doesn't hurt at all. Like I can feel them when they come in, but I'm acclimated. I'm used to it now. I've raised my frequency enough, and I've learned how to work with their frequency that now it's no problem. So I can't remember where I was going with that, but yeah, so it was, I was going to tell you that, after this 4-month period, then I went to a friend of mine was having a psychic salon, one of those ideas that everybody kind of gets together and like talks about spirituality and their gifts and all this kind of stuff. And one of my friends had brought a Healy device, which is it's a man-made frequency healing device that you can use. And I'm always curious. I'm like, I want to try it. Sounds great. And everybody else was putting it on and they couldn't really feel it. They had to turn it like all the way up to like 90, 98, 98 in order to be able to feel anything. And I literally get near the thing and it shocks me as if I was putting my finger in a light socket, like a painful shock. And I was like, no, you got to turn it way down. It hurts. And she turned it down to like 1. And I could barely tolerate it. And afterwards I channeled the angels like, what are you thinking? We just worked on you for months so you could channel angelic frequencies. And now you're going to mess it up with man-made frequencies. So they were the ones who were shocking me, which is really funny. I mean, so it definitely, there was a physical transformation that happened in my body for sure.
Wow. And it's so interesting because even people that have been listeners of this show and have seen other channeled interviews, it's so interesting because sometimes when the channeling session starts, you'll hear a lot of static. Mm-hmm. And it might be I might need to switch up my microphone. I don't know what it is, but when I go back and I'm editing and I just hear a bunch of static and I'm like, it's probably even sounding right now and we're not even aware of it. But, and it's like annoying in the editing process. But that's so interesting that you mentioned how, right now that you've acclimated to these frequencies and they've given you like a biological upgrade.
Yeah.
Do you see there's a next phase to that? Is there a next phase emerging for you in that?
Always. It is never a moment that they let me sit on my laurels. They never go like, yeah, you did it. Now you just get to hang out and do this thing you've gotten really used to. Like the minute I feel like I've got something down, like, and that was the case. Like when I was doing, way back when, I started out as a healer doing individual healing sessions. And I got to a place where I was really comfortable with that. Like I knew how to do it. I knew how to get great results. And then they were like, okay, no more sessions, no more individual set. And that was my primary income. No more private sessions, period. End of story. So I had to stop. I'm like, and they didn't tell me what was next. Right. And then and that's happened every single time. So then they pushed me into this new program, which I started doing, which was hugely expansive for me. And it's growing me in every way. It's growing not only the method, like the most recent shift they had me do was again, give up the program I was running, which was my primary source of income. I had been doing it for 2 years. It was, and they said, okay, stop doing that. And then we'll tell you what's next down the road. And the new thing was holding this new energy, which has been incredible. So every step it's testing my trust and my faith, my willingness to just jump off the cliff without knowing where I'm going. So it's always flexing that muscle, strengthening that muscle. And then it's also, okay, great, you're ready to hold more. Your capacity has grown. So how much more can you hold in terms of my view of myself and who I can be in the world? So that needs to stretch and grow. And then the third level is how much energy can you hold? How can you work with energy? How can you expand in your ability to work with the angels? So it's on multiple levels. There's literally never a moment that they let me just sit. It's constant stretching. Yeah, which I love, and it's also challenging.
Yeah, and I've learned throughout this process that our bodies are literal instruments of consciousness, and one of the primary mechanisms for us to channel this energy is our nervous system.
Yes.
When they talk about Kundalini awakenings, if your nervous system is not properly cared for or it hasn't been, trained to that level, then people have scary Kundalini sudden awakenings. Has that happened to you before in the past?
It has not. I've never, my process, the only time I had a situation where things got out of hand for me was one time I was putting on an event where I was having all different types of healers come in. It was like a healing expo in a sense. I called it the Wisdom Soup Spirit Summit. And I was bringing in all these different modalities so that people could sort of experiment and try different. It was early in my path, and it was just the fun of engaging in like all these different types of healing. So I was going out and trying all these different sessions so I would know who I wanted to invite. Well, I knew at the time that I was clearing something from my liver, that there was some congestion in my liver related to something I was clearing. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I had congestion in my liver. So when the day before I went to one healer, and he did a little bit of minor acupuncture and some other modalities. And then the very next day I went to a second healer, and she had me on this super cool crystal table, and she was doing acupuncture, and boom, it opened up like a floodgate. It was almost like it was too much healing too quickly. And it was one of the most profound healing experiences I've ever had. And I had vision after vision of this incredible, and I knew about this life that came up in these visions. I channeled about it before. I'd seen the past life, so I knew what it was, but this connected it all into this life and showed me all the ways it was intertwined with this life. And it was mind blowing, but it all came out so quickly that it almost like created a rift in my field. And it left a bruise, literally this big around, black, like round, perfect circular black bruise right above my liver that stayed for about 2 months. Yeah. And so it was too much too soon. So yeah, we can definitely, and everything was repairable. Like I was able to heal, and get my field back together, and everything was okay. And in the end, it was like, yes, it was beneficial. It's just, it probably would have been better if I had not done it all, like I had not overdone it. So. Yeah, but I haven't ever had, you're right that some people end up with very serious consequences from, and people try to get there sometimes too quickly by jumping into plant medicine and jumping into things that, really trying to get to that existential experience. But there's a reason why lives are long. If we were able to jump from 0 to 100, in a day, then lives would be 1 day long. We're meant to enjoy the journey, and it's really the destination is is I always think about like when we die and we go on the other side, we're going to know all this stuff already. We're going to have all the spiritual gifts. So it's not the destination is not the answer. It's the journey to get there, that where we discover ourselves and we see our weaknesses and to skip all that and jump right away into the end is kind of missing the point. It's like reading the last page of the book before, it's like, it's not the reason we read.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, because we usually want to get to ascension like right now. Yeah. And you want to be enlightened right now. And one thing I found out about you is so interesting is that you not only have a day job as a channeler, but they keep working in the night, and you've always had this ability to have super vivid prophetic dreams, literal like visions of, and then they happen. So I was really curious to know if there's any prophetic dreams that are coming up for you right now in terms of the state of humanity and what we're going through right now as a collective.
100%. Yeah, for sure. My dreams and then what the angels say go hand in hand, is they tend to be showing a lot of the same things. But one of the prophetic dream symbols that you will see coming up for a lot of people right now are about sort of 3 waves that are coming. And some people will see it as 3 waves of water, 3 waves of light, 3 waves of, some people see it as driving through 3 valleys, going through a mountain pass, valley 1, valley 2, valley 3. So when I first started getting the visions of it, I saw it, one of my, the early dreams I had about it was I was walking downtown and I saw through a store window, I saw subways coming to the surface inside a shop. I know it sounds weird. It's a dream. And then above the third one, there was a very large Indonesian support beam that was faulty, and they were working on it. And so the specific meaning of the dream was that it's a fault. So, it's a faulty support. So that was combined with multiple other dreams showing me that there's going to be, waves of light. There's going to be this earth rift that's coming, that's in the Indian Ocean, very specific things that are coming. The waves of light. That's the thing the angels have been talking about the most just recently. Is the first wave of light that's going to be coming relatively soon. The angels say it's on our doorstep, that it's coming very soon. And I'm super excited about it. This wave of light is, it's meant to be, they said it will hurt no one. So it's not like when people are really worried about like, well, the pole's reversed and will we all die in a giant flood? Like, no, this one doesn't hurt anybody. This one, they said, is the moment that in the future, they said, we will look back on this moment and say, that is the moment that changed everything, that was it. And it shifts our consciousness. And it's not the only wave. There are 3, but this is the first. And each wave, I think, becomes more intense. Yeah.
I can't help but relate that to a lot of Dolores Cannon's work. I don't know if you're familiar with her. And she has a book out called The 3 Waves of Volunteers.
Interesting.
And here you're referring to it as light, but in that book and in that teaching, or what came through in the hypnosis sessions was that there were going to be 3 waves of sort of generations or specific souls that were called in for this new shift that's going on. Is this similar? Like, is this just light energy, or are they actual souls that are holding this new light that will trickle down to the collective of humanity?
What an interesting interpretation. I hadn't heard that before. And you're right that the more enlightened souls we have on the planet, I mean, that's the goal. What we are trying to do right now is shift the collective consciousness, and we have to do it from the inside. And it has to be a thing where we have to become human. We have to come in as human, and we have to start out behind the veil, and we have to grow our way through to our own enlightenment. And that then shifts the collective. And the more of us that do that, the faster humanity shifts. But in terms of the waves of people that are coming, souls that are coming, and I could see how that would be ever increasing the light. But these waves are specific moments. There are specific things that happen. So the way that these waves show up in prophetic dreams is you will see it as an actual wave of light that comes and rolls over you. And the angels have said that it will sink into your body, into your bones, that you could be anywhere. You could be hiding in a basement deep in the earth and it will find you. The wave will come in and everybody will be experiencing the wave of light. And it may be a thing where people don't necessarily understand at the moment that it happened, or why it happened, or what it happened. Like, it might be a thing where the importance of it we don't understand till later, but it is. They said it will affect everyone, and so it is an actual energy. The first wave, I am confident, is an energy that comes to the planet. And I know, like I said, some people see it as 3 waves, but wave is water, as you were talking about earlier. Water is in dreams a metaphor for spirit, and spirit is light. So
Wow.
yeah, so this first one is an actual, and they said it's solar energy. So that could be from our sun. It could be that somebody brought up, as soon as one person brought it up, I heard it from like 15 people. We're talking about Betelgeuse which is not like Michael Keaton Beetlejuice. It is spelled Geuse or something, on Orion's belt, and the potential for this star, which is much larger than our sun. That the scientists just decided to point Hubble at this star and saw that it is in the last stages of existence, and it will supernova very soon and inevitably. And the funny thought is that this star has already supernovaed. It's just that it probably happened in the 13th or 14th century, and it's so far away that the light will just now be reaching us. So we will just now be seeing it. So it's inevitable, and it will be coming, and it might arrive tomorrow. It might arrive, but it's like soon. It could be in the next 10 years. We don't know. But to me, if that or when that happens, I should say, it's inevitable. Looking at from what the scientists have said, it's inevitable. And but when it happens, it will create an enormous amount of light on our planet, so much so that it will almost look like a second moon in our sky. For the next 100 years.
Huh. And, from what I've been studying about ancient civilizations and, things that have been coming up, and even we can see, past information about when there has been great cataclysms on the planet. Yeah. And I think it's something that's so deeply ingrained into our memory, our subconscious memory, about these great deluges. If you want to talk to us about one of the greatest channelers of maybe all time, Leonardo da Vinci, and his visions about the floods and what he saw.
Yeah, because that is another thing the angels have talked about a lot. There's certain themes that they have been talking about for years. They started coming in with a lot of this information in 2020. And then they kind of touched on certain themes for like 6 months. And then ever since then, it's been like a constant, like they just kind of bring it up and drop it in here and here. And especially they'll get into the specifics of things. But one of the things they said a lot is that we will have a lot of flooding, a lot of water. And they've specified it can be water from rain. It can be like enormous amounts of rain. So it can be from rivers overflowing. It can be but it can also be, they recently described the waters of the ocean as sloshing. That it would be like, imagine like if you take a cup of water and it's the water like sloshing up onto the shore. So it's like the ocean's slosh. I don't know why that would happen, but that came in with, a couple months ago. They talked about, that shipping would be a cataclysmic industry. It would be, and that was right before they started talking about this, maybe like 4, 5, 6 months ago. And now we have all this stuff happening in international shipping, where we have the 2 canals are barely getting any traffic through. So it's already happening, which is amazing to see. But this concept of water and flooding, that so they've been talking about it. They said it's really, really necessary for everybody to have a way to purify their water. And that is one thing they said in terms of they don't like people being in prepper mode, thinking about, because it's fear-based. They said you're going to be fine, but there's certain things it's good for us to have. And one of those things is a way to purify your water. And so, it is amazing then to know that Leonardo, in his life, like he clearly was channeling, because he's drawing pictures of airplanes and pictures of elevators,
drones, bicycles, right? Everything.
Like, incredible. And then he did, in the last 10 years of his life, apparently he has a book, which was all of his sketches of incredible flooding. And he calls the book The Deluge. And he kept it hidden because it would have been, heretical at that time. But yeah, all images and captions and words about the deluge. And I think some of this is already happening. We already see, from climate change, the stuff's going on with the climate. We already see some major areas that have, incredible flooding. So this is already occurring. but I think it intensifies. And one possibility is that in the if this what the angels originally referred to, when I saw in my dreams about the Indian Ocean, if there really is a rift that appears, and if that rift is volcanic in nature, it's possible that if it's in the ocean, I mean, and this is not something they've said, it's me connecting the dots. They've said loads of flooding, some of it by rain, and then they also say rift, earth, ocean, right? So I put the two dots together and I say, okay, if we have an earth rift in the ocean, if that's volcanic, it could boil off a lot of water. It could throw a lot of water up into our atmosphere, which would then come down as rain. So that's me trying to connect the dots, which could be totally wrong. I'm just saying this is one thing they said, and here's another thing they said. But to me, that makes logical sense. I don't know.
Mm.
But a lot of times when I try to make sense of things like that, I get it wrong. So,
yeah, I mean, what's beautiful is that you're also a deep student of this work that the angels are coming through with. And just to give an overview of what you believe is the unfolding story of their message, what do they really want to hone in for people right now that you're seeing also as a student of these messages?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because there's really very consistent threads through all of the messages that they bring to us. They started out, if you look at the arc of their whole conversation with us, and it really is a conversation. It's one conversation that they're giving to us, one piece at a time. And you can see it building. And it's been years that we've been in this one conversation with them. And the thread of the conversation, they start out saying, hey, the world is changing. There's going to be major events coming. So the world as you know it will no longer exist. That it will be a very, very different world. And in many ways, it will be a much better world. But the more that we hang on to the way things have been, the more closed we will be to the new things that are coming. And so they say first, yes, world drastically different, institutions unwinding, all the things that we thought were necessary to build a life, to have a life, we won't be able to count on anymore. And so they say, okay, now if we accept that that is a possibility, if we accept that that is potentially true, then they say, great, okay, then there's all these amazing new energies that are coming to the planet. But if we are looking at those energies from the perspective of trying to see what's always been there, looking through our expectations are limited to what we've experienced in the past, because we can't possibly conceive of what's coming. So the message over and over again is allow, be open and allow, and to let go of the things that we are currently attached to in terms of home, in terms of whatever it is. If you're like, I really want to have this career and I have to get this degree and I have to do, you know what I mean? To say, okay, how about detach from all of that and say, no, what do you want to feel in your work? Do you want to feel it's meaningful to you? Do you want to feel, and focus on if this pathway gets you there, if it gets you to those feelings, great. But if you take away all the specifics and you focus on the feeling, you leave yourself open to creating that in some new way. Mm. And they're saying that concept of letting go and allowing is one of the most important threads through all of the messages that we've gotten. And my understanding for why it's important is because we can't possibly conceive of how different things are going to be. And if we don't have our eyes open, we will not see it. We will be trying very, very hard to see something else, and we'll be really disappointed, and we will be in the vibration of regret, which is one of the ways we keep the energies out.
Yeah, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, he says something along the lines of, reality is created by a network of observers. So the more people are observing a potential future or potential reality, that's what's going to be manifest into form. And also the angels are talking about how malleable physicality is as well. So we'll probably get the chance to talk to them about that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Before we get into meeting the angels, I would love to ask you, because I've heard you say that there's our guardian angel, there's angels that are more like bound to this earth, there are more off earth angels. So I'd love to get an introduction of the ones that you are working with right now. And also, I know you've met Yeshua a couple of times. So is he working in that group, or what's the dynamic?
Yeah. So and Yeshua is definitely part of my team. Like, he shows up a pretty good regularity, and I always look forward to it. It's amazing when he shows up. The main angels that I work with are off planet, they're non-Earth angels are the ones that I most often work with. They are angelic, they are angels, they're not ETs or from another planet. They are non-physical. And angels describe themselves, they are a collective, just like human, we have a collective consciousness. Angels are a collective, and they are an essence. And so angels, that essence, the angelic essence, is everywhere. It's all around us all at all times. So people wonder, how is it that everyone can be talking to Archangel Michael at the same time and having a real experience? People be like, oh my gosh, Archangel Michael appeared to me. It's real.
He has more than one friend. Don't worry, you're not that special.
Yeah, he has a lot of friends. He's very popular, and he's always invited to every party. And anyways, the way that it works is that Archangel Michael is a real being. Just like if we became a collective right now, if you and I, all of a sudden, zoop, we were absorbed into the collective consciousness, you and I would be one. We would all be part of that unity, but your individuality would still exist, and so would mine. But you would also know my individuality deeply. Like you would totally understand what it is to be the personality that is me. And I would understand what it is to be the personality that is you. So we would be a collective, but we would still have those identities. And so within the angelic essence, there is the identity of Archangel Michael. And in that essence, it's all around us. At any point, if you call on Archangel Michael, from that essence, they can zoop up into the identity of Archangel Michael. And it is real. It is a real being, right? But then when you're done, he can just dissipate out into the essence and be part of all that is. So the angels that I connect with do have their individual identities. And as they come in, and there'll be different ones, but they are very, very protective about who comes through. Like it's a very limited roster. And
the starting lineup,
pretty much, pretty much.
They got their bench players, but they don't really put them in that much.
It's so true. As a matter of fact, there's one time somebody I was channeling, I can't remember what it was, but for some reason there was an angel that needed to come through that had a particular expertise. And this is when I learned that not all angels can channel, is that this angel wanted to come through, but he could not channel. And it was a terrible experience. He's trying to come through, and it's literally like it was a horrible experience. And they just like pulled a ripcord. They pulled him out. And they're like, okay, like stop. He needs more practice. And then they became the intermediate and just said what he was going to say. But like if, for example, I don't channel people who have passed or anything. It's pretty much all angels. It's Yeshua. And then very, very odd, the craziest experience of my channeling life. I was at a retreat once. I was leading a retreat, and angels are very literal. Like they are black and white. Like it's like they take what you say as exactly what it is. They don't necessarily always get the joke. You know what I mean? They will take it as it is. So we're at this retreat, and the last day of retreat, I usually do Q&A. And one person asks, she says, well, what do I need to do to like reach my own personal, like highest state of enlightenment? Like, what are my steps? What do I need to do? And then she jokingly says, I'm asking for someone else. Or she says, I'm asking for a friend, is what she said. And she meant it like a joke, like, oh, I'm already there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm asking for someone else. But she said it, the word specifically is, I'm asking for a friend. And then I feel my whole body shifts, and the angels say, we're bringing in a friend. And and they took her literally, and they brought in one of her guides, and it was an elf. And I am not joking. It was an actual elf. And I had no idea that elves were a real thing. I didn't know that elves exist.
You're seeing this being.
This being came into my body and took over and was in much more. The angels don't usually move my body. This elf was like flopping around and talking to her. He was hilarious. I mean, absolutely hilarious. And it was a super fun, crazy experience. And he told her all kinds of stuff, all of which were true, like all of which was like absolutely resonated and spoke exactly into her experience. And he kept saying, I'm here. Like, you asked for a friend, I'm here. It was so funny. But that is the only, like, other than Yeshua and angels, like that's the only time. And I don't know why, like, why did they let an elf through? I don't know, but they did. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that was a wild one, definitely a wild. And like I said, I had no idea that was true, but apparently this person had a very, very strong connection and had been an elf in prior incarnations. So like, that was her family was. And so, yeah, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing conversation.
Huh. And is there like an all-star or like a spokesperson that represents the angelic group, or are they all chipping in collectively, or how's that
There's
experience
certain
like?
energies that are, and I call them energies, but they're certain angels. And the very first time they came in, they did give me a name, but then after that, they said no, just refer to us as angels, because they want me to get used to the concept of a collective, of being in and part of a collective. And they are completely without ego. So the idea that they need to be called out as identities is if they want us to refer to them as the angels. It's that idea that they don't have ego. So not the same way that we do. So yeah, but there are certain energies that I recognize that I'm like, okay, this is and they have, and a lot of it is like, what kind of a message are they bringing through? They'll pick the right energy for that specific message. So I remember one time, when I was, again, it was on retreat, and sometimes they'll start coming in right when I'm in the grounding process. I'm in the grounding exercise. They'll start coming in, and one time I'm not even halfway through the grounding, and all of a sudden I see and it's like tons of tiny little angels, little ones. Rather than usually it's like an energy, it's like bonk, like here's this huge energy that comes normal. And this was tons of little and extremely bright white, and to the point where it looked from behind my eyes, it looked like someone had flooded the room with light. And all these angels, little ones coming in. And I was like, well, okay, like something different's happening here. I don't know what it is, because I'd never had this happen before. And then I just open up and they come through and they sang through me. And I am not a singer. Like, I have no singing training. I do not have a good singing voice. And they sang the entire time. They sang a whole, and it was amazing. It was absolutely, and I just had to like let go and allow and just let myself be carried off, because my natural, if you're not a singer, you're not like going like, yeah, let's do that. So, so that was really unusual and amazing. And I think it was that was the energy they needed to come through. And so these were the right angels for that energy.
Yeah, they were
But
toning. They were toning to a specific
mhm,
frequency for the
mhm.
healing or whatever
Yeah.
alchemization they were bringing
Oh
through at
yeah.
that time.
It was crazy. Everybody in the room was crying. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. People were feeling it in their bodies. It was definitely working with frequency. Yeah, it
Wow.
was amazing.
So we know that they RSVP'd to this party and
Yes.
they wanted to come through. So is that
Yeah.
something that you would feel comfortable doing right now?
100%. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So I would just ask before we start is we'll go through grounding together, because a lot of times when they're with us, they do bring through healing frequencies, and it's good for us to be
Mm.
grounded as we listen to them, and just that helps us to receive whatever it is that they're communicating. So if you would have your eyes closed, go ahead and drop down from your tailbone a nice thick root that goes down through the floor and down into the ground, and follow it down with your mind as it grows and extends, going deeper and deeper into the earth. And follow it all the way down to the very, very center of the earth. And when it reaches that center point, feel the root sprout and anchor itself in. And as it does, notice that the root is pulling gently and becoming taut. And now feel as that tautness moves all the way up the root. And now all the way up your spine, anchoring you securely to the earth. All right, I'll go ahead and bring in the angels. Beings, we are here. We are with you. We are ready to counteract and oppose any sensation you may have of doubt regarding our non-beingness. We are here to interject our thoughts, to wander amongst your own, regarding our truth, your awareness, which has placed upon us a dialogue which is inherent to belief systems which do not reflect with accuracy our existence, can sometimes place limitations upon your relationship with ourselves, and we wish to interpose ourselves in between the words of those prescriptions and to resolve within you now a perspective we can share about who we are in truth and in reality. We would share for yourselves within the doubt you may subscribe to unknowingly, for within the perspective that you share, intertwined within the reality of what it is to become human, there are layers upon layers of belief systems to which you have been subscribed at times in different incarnations. And these layers of the substrate of your own person can create an interpersonal opposition between us. Thus, we would say to carry in your heart the weight of this obstacle, to allow it to be there, to let it resolve into something tangible, to feel it now as something pressing and present upon you, as though it has existed in the eternal, for the expression of human lives of which you do belong to. And we would say to feel it now as something there, as something physical, something you are endowed with, something concrete, a weight, a blockage to disconnect you from ourselves, a sense of who we are as resolved into beings that do not belong upon the earth plane or within the habitude of current existence, as though we somehow are lost within the pages of books which are from long ago. And we say, we invite you now to feel the sensation of this weight within your heart, to feel it anchor into you now as something you do know, to allow it to exist, to not deny its hardship, the sense of loss, of identification with separation. And we ask you now to place your hand most gently upon the spaciousness of your own heart's cavity, and to hold a whisper in your breath of I am endowed with grace, and to allow this whisper to escape your lips as we speak into your heart an acceptance of this incarnating, which comes into resolve upon each instantiation of your existence. And we allow it to exist, this blockade against us. We allow it to be. We allow it to permeate your reality. And we accept you and all that is just the same. And we wrap our arms, we intertwine our wings around you and cascade blessings upon your crown, and accept that this positive expression of identification in the union of humanity does also endow you with the consequence of separating from ourselves. And we wish to employ in the grace of this moment an asking, a request upon the self, to play within your own heart's tone a sense of I am ready, I am opening, I am willing to accept the possibility that I am of divine nature myself, and all that exists within this reality stems from what is divine within me. And in this opening place, we will place our blessings upon the darkness that shades you from ourselves, and ask within this moment now that what is hardship and surrender comes full term and allows you to feel an opening within the vestiges of these endowments you have accepted from somewhere else. And we whisper in between now the moments that you are counting, the words that you are listening. We linger longer within and break apart with whispers what would hold you condemned to the endowment of separating. And we ask and place here for the moment a seed of doubt planted gently against the incarnating resolution that you shall be separated from us. And we whisper again to ask you to place us within this space that we are creating, to allow us to take place within you, to allow us to make our presence known, to accept us as flesh and bone, as though we exist beside you, and to take us on entirely, for we will be by your side as energy, and you may make us present within you. We say blessings. Do you have questions for us?
Thank you. What does it mean that humanity is moving from a karmic to a dharmic path?
We are pleased, very pleased that you have asked us this. We say that the karmic construct has been useful for yourselves up until this moment, until this time through which you are passing. It has been a school of understanding self and all that is, a method by which you are constrained within the patterns of your own experience to encounter yourself again and again, to repeat the circumstances which confound you, to help you delve deeper into the complexity of what you are. And these confines created only by the self, for there is no judgment of soul or self created by another. It is only the soul itself who endows karma. It comes alive within the construct of a life for you to play and repeat a pattern for better illustration of what you are. But in the times that are coming, the school of life shall change and shall no longer carry the weight of these earthly burdens, which you have become so accustomed to. In the light that is forming upon the horizon, you are lifted into a frequency so gently, very gently, within which you may experience yourself encountering all that is from a place of loving self-acceptance. And within the frequency of loving self-acceptance, all karma cannot be brought forward. It is a sensation that you are understanding what you are in completion, accepting what you are without resistance. This then negates all karmic understanding and leads you into an experience of yourself manifesting your daily life upon this world from the place of self, understanding your own role as creator. And from this perspective, all life flows through you, and you are a blessing upon the earth. And this becomes the Dharmic construction, a world within which the lessons for self-understanding stem not from encountering the depth of what you are, but from the understanding of yourself as a manifester upon the earth. Do you understand us?
Yes. We'd love to get your wisdom about the elevation of the feminine mind that is occurring right now on the planet.
The feminine energy to which you are referring is an expression of yourself and the engagement with an internal shifting of understanding about where is the world. It is an understanding of yourself as the center point from which all things begin. It is the shifting of the perspective from the external to the internal. It is the disengagement with the all that is external to who you are now, and the re-engagement through the center of what you are. The understanding that through the pathway of your own soul lies the opportunity to reunite with Source and all that is. It is the pathway from separation to unity. This is the acceptance of the divine feminine. This is not to imply that the divine masculine is not spiritual in nature, for these two energies are the push and the pull of your own existence. They live equally within you and create the polarity that forms what it is to be human. This is a topic of much complexity, and we could speak upon this at length, but we understand that time is limited. Did we answer your question?
Yes, very much so. Thank you. And you mentioned about the school of life and how it's transforming. I would love to know what the original purpose of the school of life was and why is it changing right now?
This earth has been misunderstood for some time now. It has not always been a school transfixed upon the role of bettering humanity. It became that in the resolve of the all that is to reach a better understanding. It became a potential outcome that did resolve into happening. And this then became the instigation of life as you have known it. And now the earth herself has resolved to change, has altered her course through her own natural evolution. And you as beings from within her, of her, must evolve as well. Thus, the changing construct of existence within this realm is resolved upon by her, the earth, in her own evolution. She is the driver of your change. Do you understand us?
Yes. Have other galactic species played an influence in humanity's evolution?
Yes. Yes, they have. And there has been much obfuscation regarding their influence and role in the participation of humanity. There has been the instrumental influence where they have created a belongingness with humankind, where they have influenced your DNA, where they have brought to yourself many lines of genealogy to participate in the humanity as one being that contains them all. Do you understand us?
Yeah. And are they still playing an active role in that process?
Not as you are thinking, not as being continually influencing your trajectory. They do not do this. They participate through inaction, through observation alone, through a dormant undertaking in which they can dialogue amongst themselves and participate through knowledge, but not interacting with the human biology. Do you understand us?
Yes, yes. And when we look at these megalithic structures that were left behind by ancient civilizations, what were the role of these, let's say, the pyramids in places like Northern Africa? what were their role, and how are we reactivating and rediscovering their power and their potential?
The potential came to fruition in their time of operating. The potential for unification of the energy grid of the planet was made an instrumental time in the alignment of the path for humanity to the greater understanding of what it is. An elemental construction of the earth, the elements of the earth were required in the reunification of the earth's core and magnetic field. It was done for the purpose of aligning humanity back to its source, to the source of all that created it. It was for and part of the process of putting humanity on a trajectory of evolution toward its higher self. Do you understand us?
And when you refer to the higher self of humanity, what are we experiencing about that higher self more and more of now in these coming times?
The higher self, soul, substrate of what it is to be and become a human who is incarnated has for themselves a point of origination, a moment within which they are conceived. And in that time and timing, they are proposed a question of what it is to become. And in this questioning, they are finding themselves and delineating their points of suggestion along that line of inquiry. And each point then becomes and comes into fruition as an energetic start, as a point of belonging, as a way of expressing into form. And each of these forms then takes on life in one way or another. And these then expand throughout time. And therefore, you, as a being, belongs to this substrate, to the soul that you are, and can find yourself living and existing in many different times and places. And yet you are all one. And above this level of consciousness, this individuation of what is your own soul, there is yet another layer of beingness, which is the collective that you share within all who are encountered within the earth herself, the collective understanding of what it is to be human. And this thought form, this form of being, exists in a different way. It is as though all that you are participate in the molding of an existence that you equally share, that you are co-creating and announcing by your expectations and the patterns that you exude onto the face of the earth herself. And this is why, as we have said, that it is of such great importance at this time and timing in the trajectory of Earth that the formation of those thoughts carry on differently, that they are endowed with the potential and the possibility of expansion into a new way of being. Does this answer your question?
Very much so. And how is the dynamic of current human relationships changing as we let go of that karmic path?
The distancing between yourselves and those you have not found favor with will become more pronounced, and we are sorry for this. That in the experiencing of the energies that align you to your truth, you may find that you are endowed with more clarity regarding who and whom you choose to spend your time with. And this may result in greater difficulty within the context of certain relationships. And this may come to pass. However, we say that in the understanding of one another, the intensification of the bond between you is notable and experienced by all. That there comes and becomes between you an understanding of each other from the point of understanding that is shared. The emotionality can be transferred from one person to another. The sense of who you are comes to be known more deeply. The intention that you hold can be shared without words. The sense of yourself and what you are becomes permeable to the knowledge of another. And this then changes the dialogue between people, between countries, between all that are endowed with life. The understanding that you share deepens, and you see each other differently. Therefore, conflicts that rise do not become conflicts at all. There becomes a shared understanding of the evolution of a person, of their soul, and the depth of who they are. And this then becomes respected by each other. Do you understand us?
Yes. And what role does awakening our heart play in all of this?
The heart cascades all that is new and fresh. The heart feels its way onto a journey of self-possession, of understanding what you are, the journey of the soul from self-held exile in the compartment of your own thinking, down and through the felt objective of sensation through the heart is the pathway to the core of your own truth. The heart is the navigator that belongs to this existence. It is the pathfinder. It is the doorway through to an experience of the world that welcomes you. It is through the head that humanity has managed to evolve thus far. But it is limiting in its discussion and understanding of what is possible for human form. And through the heart space, you find the unity, which is your next endeavor. Do you understand us?
And what is the next endeavor?
The next endeavor is your becoming into a structure of living that harmonizes all that is between you and among you, where all living things are held in reverence, where you yourself identify with the earth, with herself, and find within you a compassionate relationship to all that is, and hold within you an endowment for caring that has not yet permeated the earth.
Why did the Atlantean civilization become arrogant?
They felt within themselves that they held answers and keys to what is, that they could create a human or another life form, that they could create beings like God, that they could become God, that they could transfer the wealth of his power and knowledge to themselves while incarnated. They became a vision of themselves which encountered the blockages of egoic identification and therefore were playing with the instrumentation of the divine without a measure of interpretation or understanding that calls upon grace. And this interdimensional rupture, as we would call it, endowed them with a certain measure of chaos, which then manifested in their physical reality. Do you understand us?
Mm.
We see things, we would explain, always from the perspective of spiritual understanding. That as we describe things, we tell you as we see. And the experience of having been or being an Atlantean would probably sound much differently from how we have described it. Do you understand us?
Yes. And in these experimentations, for them to replicate the human, was that involved with artificial intelligence as we are experiencing it now?
Not in the same ways and methods, but yes, in a manner. They did create all measures of beastly introductions to this plane. They did encounter themselves as a method of experimenting upon their own race and biology, intermixing with other types and frequencies in interdimensional passageway was found and formed through this process, and they called upon energies that did not belong there. And these then endowed them with certain gifting, which could not be lasting. And it created the chaos which we are speaking of. They found themselves rupturing the fabric of civilization from within. It did drown themselves out of existence. Do you understand us?
I do. And right now, we are, as a humanity, experiencing more and more information that is coming out to the public around our inevitable connection to the galactic races outside of planet Earth. And I would love to ask you, what does humanity need to understand about the nature of the universe? It could be in terms of physics, technology, or just spirituality, for us to become global, galactic citizens again.
There needs to be an encounter of yourselves, by yourselves, through yourselves as one mind, one energy, one energetic focus, an agreement amongst yourselves that you all belong in harmony. There must be this, as you would call it, world peace. There must be the orchestration among and between the humans that are living, that all may exist internally and externally within the realm of peace. And this is coming, not far. You will belong to this within your existence on this earth.
Are there any events that we should be aware of as a collective to prepare ourselves for what's to come?
There are many things that are coming, many of which we have spoken. There are timings which are uncertain, but we would resolve upon the description of a great unfolding around yourselves. And yes, there will be disruption of all kinds, many kinds of disruption. All things that are heavy upon the future of humankind must be dissolved. All things that restrain and keep you within a context of self-limitation must be deregulated. An understanding of what you are must become expansive. And for this to happen, there are many systems at work which need to be disrupted. And this will be uncomfortable for many. And we wish to reiterate with great emphasis that in the times that are coming, the thoughts of what you need shall change and be different. You will not interact with your environment in the same way. It will not be made of the same things. It will not be as it has been. Thus, to linger and resolve upon the recreation of past blessings would be a mistake in regard to your own happiness and your ability to create a substantially improved experience of living. We would draw you to an understanding of yourselves as moving through life very differently, not as it has been, not in the same limiting experience of the physical. You shall have access to greater dimensions of understanding and experience. Your perceptions shall change. Thus, we would encourage you to let go of the perspective that you must prepare in the way of earthly goods, but to remind you that you shall share amongst yourself what is important for the experience of staying alive. And you shall become one with herself, the earth, to such a degree that the formation of the world around yourselves shall become like liquid, and you shall find what you need. Do you understand us?
You've mentioned in another instance that physicality is not as dense as it seems. What is the process of altering physicality and matter? And can we even alter our own physical body?
This questioning deserves much discussion, and we would say that you cannot change the fundamental nature of what is, of what something has been brought into form as. You cannot undermine the path of another being, but you can allow their expression in more clarity. You can allow them to be fulfilled into the promise of what they are. You can and are allowed to bring into harmony with yourself another being. Thus, you can change the effect and the interference of non-belonging elements, which we would call illness. Yes? Does this meet your desire for an answer? You may ask clarifying questions.
Of course. You mentioned that there was many systems that may need to collapse, and you just brought up the term illness, and that connects very clearly with the medical institutions of the world right now. What is the next evolution of healing for humanity, and how can we move beyond the current system so that illness is no longer such a prevalent theme in our society?
The feelings with which you are endowed when you are experiencing illness are often the culmination of a pathway that has been forged in past destiny, in the experience of life, whether shallow or deep, whether in this incarnating or past lives. It is the expression which has been formed energetically and has physically manifested into your perception. The agonizing suffering, which has been a part of the experience of being human, will no longer be necessary in the pathway to which you are prescribing. It will not be necessary for you to perceive yourself in this manner, to experience your alignment to self through the destruction of bodily tissues, bones, and forms. You may have an experience of yourself in healthful living. Yes, and this we foresee as part of your expression. But the understanding through all that is, through all that you incarnate into your experience, the only possible obstruction that can exist is the resistance of your own soul within yourself. that all that exists in your experience delves into the truth of your own belief systems, your own resistance to who and what you are. And these experiences have taken their toll upon your physicality. And thus, the method by which we transfer your energy into a space of greater and higher construction in alignment with a frequency where you are absolved from the karmic constructs of choice and habit is to change the earth through the application of enormous quantities of light and frequency, which will permeate your bones, your body, your tissues, thereby drawing into contrast what is truth and what has been your reality, and allowing yourself the opportunity to choose and claim your own healthful expression of your light. Do you understand us?
I do. And I would love to ask you, as one of the final questions, if there is any information that I would need to know to be able to lead this mission, this show, in a better direction, in a more expansive direction. Is there any information that I would need to know?
We say, looking now currently into your field at your invitation, we would express to yourself that you are held in the arms of one that binds you to her cause accidentally. Your maternal influence carries a bond and a word of such blessing, of such power. And the entanglement with her does draw you into focus, into presence with yourself, in abundance, in the sense of yourself as expansive. And this we applaud. But the nature of soul and self does require you to reflect back upon what you are and the exaltation of the chorus of your own voice. Thus we say to strike a note, a chord that is in separation, not from lack of love or respect, but in the desire to express from the foundation which is created from the strength of what you are, and to then reignite that connection from afar and draw her close once again, but to extinguish the foundation upon which you are settled, for it must gain its strength from within you, not through her or her exalted view and perspective of what can and should move through you. Do you understand us?
When you refer to maternal influence, what does that refer to?
Your mother. Do you understand us?
I do.
We mean this most gently, with the greatest respect for her own divine nature and her trust in you. It is only in the expression of yourselves together that there can be an intertwinement of objective and a coloring of your own nature in alignment to her truth. And we wish to disentangle you from this prospect so that you may find your own center more easily. Do you understand us?
Yes.
Do you have questions for us?
Do you have any final messages for the next generation of leaders that will step forward into this new shift, this new consciousness that is emerging, or the caretakers of young children right now that will be raising the child of the future, the leader of tomorrow? Do you have any final messages for them?
Yes, we say blessings abound for you all, for you distinguish yourselves upon the plight of a world and a time that has claimed the many. And you claim this world as something new, as something changed, as something welcomed. And you bring to light a harmony within yourself. And in this method, you can alter the pathway self-same, to resolve within yourself your own hearts first, to focus there, to see yourselves as aligned within. This is the pathway forward for the many. You can demonstrate what it is to hold harmony within. You can hold this within yourself, a light that shines so bright through dim and obstructed vision becomes seen. And we entreat you now in your blessings, in your many encounters with divinity, to feel yourselves a part of all that is, including this earth as she bends, as she shifts and changes, and know that you are this, that you are the transference of power, of anger, of frustration, of all that is heavy, the movement of these energies into the divine nature of inclusion. And you must hold the energy of acceptance of the will of all peoples to include, to blend and merge among you, to invite all to participate, to hold in your hearts the ability to love equally, to create harmony within and external to you, to love in truth. We bless you.
Thank you. So much love.
We thank you. We say goodbye.
Goodbye. Welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
She got put in again, coach.
What I miss.
How did that feel?
That's always great. It does take energy to do it, but yeah, it's awesome. And I have a hard time. Like right now, I can't really remember what you guys talked about. I saw they show me visions. I'm kind of over here somewhere, and they're showing me things as they're speaking to you. And I have certain visions and stuff that they showed me. But then sometimes when I first come back into my body, it's hard for me to remember. And then gradually, if you talk about stuff, I'll remember words that they said and stuff that they said. But yeah, it's like that every time I channel, I go back. If I read the transcript afterwards, I love it because it's like somebody else channeled for me. I'm like, oh, wow. I don't remember. Yeah.
Is there any specific image that you're remembering from that specific session that we just did?
The image, several images. There was a beautiful image of you and your mother. I saw that. That was beautiful. And it showed just a really gentle intertwining, which was really lovely. But then they also showed, oh, it's snowing outside. I just saw that. Wow, how fun. And they were showing, and they were giving you some guidance around that. I know that. There was the energy. It was super cool seeing the energy of, they were showing how, I think they were talking to, like, you were something about like the youth of today, like people today who are young, who are here, who've come for this purpose. And it was super interesting seeing that it was almost like taking energy into their body and transmuting it. And then through acceptance, through the energy of acceptance, it was helping to transmute some of the really dense energies of the earth through the energy of acceptance. And so it was a really powerful, this understanding of like and it was showing, they were showing me this idea like of, things stretching apart, like change, meaning we're moving from one place to another. But in that process, there's a bridge we have to get through. And they were showing me that the energy of the people who are being born today, the young people of today, people who are in their, birth through their mid-20s, whatever it is, that they are of that bridge, that it's a very unique energy that they're holding. And it's an energy of almost like alchemy, I guess you would call it. Like being the energy of having in themselves the ability to transmute some of the heaviest energies that the earth is currently holding through the power of acceptance. Yeah, that was really cool to see. And I don't know how they said it, but that's what I saw. It was very, very cool to see. And then remind me something else they talked about, and maybe I can tell you some images I got. I don't remember what else was in there.
Yeah, we covered a lot. We talked about Atlantis as well, and the experimentations of the hybridization projects they were involved in. And That was
Yeah.
wild. What did you see in that
Okay,
room?
so I will tell you the weirdest thing. So I was actually really interested because they showed me, I don't know what they were saying, but they showed me, and this came up for me before, early when I was first channeling. I went to a channeling immersion. Immersive was what was it, like 9 days or 10 days? I can't remember. It was a long time where I was just channeling all day long. Yeah, wake up at 9 and we channel until 9. At 9 I'd break for lunch, but I was channeling all day long. And it was a learning process. It was like a deep learning process I was going through. And in that process, I all kinds of stuff came up. One of which was this crazy past life where I was what do you call it? A human that has a bull head. What do you call that?
A
Begins with an M.
bullhead, a
Bull.
centaur. No,
No,
a
centaur's
ment.
another one. It begins with an M, like mastodon or it's not matador.
Yeah.
It's something M. It
If
begins with an
someone
M.
knows in the comments,
Somebody
please
knows. Yeah,
let us
somebody will know
know.
what that is. I was that. And I had this whole past life regression where I saw the whole life, and it came up a couple different times. So I had this experience as this being, and it was a crazy experience. And then they brought me back into that life a couple times to teach me different things. So, for example, one time I was meditating like months later, or many months later, and they were trying to show me what the experience of rage is, because in this life I don't really connect to the energy of rage. It's not something I feel. It's not and so they were trying to show me this is rage, and they brought me back into that experience of being that whatever it is, whatever it is, the creature that I was. I don't remember what my name was. I had a name, but anyways, and they brought me, and in the vision, I was on a beach, and one of my guides was in front of me, and I could feel the horns coming out of my head, and I was huge. I mean, like when I'm in that body, I am like massive, like huge, like twice as big as a human, and these horns are really heavy, and I could feel the energy of rage in my body like nothing. I've never experienced it before. And it was so powerful that in the meditation, my guide is standing right in front of me, just with no fear, the smile on his face, just watching me struggle. And it was everything I could do in the meditation not to kill him. And I could feel as I'm turning my head, I'm struggling with everything I have in my body. And I was goring him with it was everything I could do. And as I turned my head, I could feel the weight of the horns turning. It was so physical. And I could not wait to end. Like, I was like, get me out of this. It was a terrible feeling, terrible, where this rage you can't control, in the sense that I didn't want to hurt this guide that was in front of me, but this being that I was only knew rage and was wanting to gore him. And yeah, it was the craziest experience. And it did help me understand a quality of energy that I wouldn't have access to otherwise, which is why they did it, why they brought me there and showed me this. But in any case, so now today, when they were talking about that, they showed me that. That's how I knew they were talking about it. They showed me that image of that life where I was the half bull, half man.
That was in Atlantis then.
It must have been. Yeah, it must have been in Atlantis. So crazy to think that existed. But yeah, I was that. And I had this very real experience of that life, and it was a life about betrayal. It was there was a reason for me to have that life. So it was a really amazing, there was definitely a lesson that I learned in that life. But so that happened, and then they were showing me, when they were time, now that you bring it up, they were showing me that they connected to certain energies. It was almost like taking two things that are meant to go together and can't be separated, almost like our DNA. Imagine that you have the DNA, and they said they only knew how to access one strand instead of the double helix, and they just took the one strand and thought they had all of it. And then they said, okay, now we can be God and we can create, but they were missing the other half. And so that's kind of, and I don't know how that plays out in reality, but that's the vibe, is that, and it somehow opened some kind of a rift, or I don't know what it did, but it created chaos. I know that it created chaos around them.
That's so interesting. And for people that want to dive deeper into that, as they were explaining about these experiments of like crossbreeding and giving like humans like these bullheads or horse for feet, Dolores Cannon, in her book Convoluted Universe 1, there's a specific chapter on Atlantis, and it highlights exactly what the angels were talking about these projects in full detail.
Wow.
So I was like transported back to when I was reading that book in Greece, I think it was.
No way. Oh my gosh.
Wild, wild,
Wow.
wild. They also talked about the pyramids,
Okay.
their connection with the energy grid and all of that. So yeah, I'm gonna
Interesting.
need to go back a couple of times to the to really
Yeah, yeah.
integrate all that
And I
information.
felt like I remember they showed me a visual of the pyramids, and I felt like they were telling me as they were talking to you that there were the known and the unknown reasons for the pyramids. So I think they were showing me that you might hear multiple different explanations for what was going on, but they were giving me the angelic perspective of like what were these doing and how are they used. But then there might be other explanations that are also valid, that they were doing multiple things is the idea, but they were showing from their perspective. And it was something about aligning humanity back to, I don't know, some other something. It was like showing me a connection to stars or a star group. I
Orion.
don't know what, something like that. You'd have to listen. I'd have to listen again and see what I got
Yeah,
out of it. I can't remember. They showed me something. It was like, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, confusing,
yeah,
but I'd have to listen
yeah.
to the message and see what they said.
The Great Pyramids are aligned exactly to Orion, so that must have something to
Oh,
do with it. Yeah.
yeah, because it was something about aligning to, and I think they use the word something destiny or something like that, aligning humanity to its either to its evolution or its destiny or something like that, which would be amazing if it's to Orion, if we're talking about Betelgeuse and that's in Orion's belt. So, which then might be the flash of light, which would take us to our next stage of evolution. So that would be crazy, wouldn't it?
You heard it here first.
I know. Wow, that'd be so cool. Yeah. Who knows? I
Wow.
mean, if that happens that way, that's the kind of thing we will only know after the fact. We'll look back on it and be like, that happened. But from here,
Hmm.
we can just guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, wow,
And
wow.
wow. And then we wrap up every show with a segment called the final trio.
All right.
I know we're definitely gonna have to continue our conversations and go even deeper because I feel like we just scratched a surface. But before the final trio, I'd love to know where people can connect with you even further. Where would you send them? Any upcoming exciting projects that you have going on, if you want to share that as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so it's easy. I'm on YouTube. It's my name, Ann Tucker, Ann with an E. So they can find me on YouTube at my channel, Ann Tucker, or my website, which is also anntucker.com. And then in terms of things I have ongoing, if people, I would suggest for people, if they do not yet have a regular healing practice, a monthly practice or a daily practice that they're using to keep pace with the energies, come and join me in Peace Bathing. It's a monthly healing which is with the angels. I'm in channel. It's very reasonably priced, and it is designed to help people navigate the shifting energies. And we do the session live, and then they use that recording for each month. And it just go, month to month. I get a new recording, new session every month, and then we use that for the month. And they're powerful healing sessions, and the angels are teaching in them as well. But the main focus is to help us keep pace with the shift.
Huh.
Yeah, and that's
Because
on my website, and it's called Peace Bathing.
wow. And because you said you're a portal as well. So
Yeah.
what does that have to do with you bringing in these frequencies?
Yeah, it is. So every time I connect with the angels, it creates a opening where the angels can come through. And so the same thing as when we're doing peace bathing is it creates a connection between you and the angels. So the more you do those recordings, the more you do, every time you do the recording, it reopens that portal and it strengthens your own connection with the angels. So it is definitely the case. It's actually amazing for me to see because I have sort of two main healing programs. I have Peace Bathing, which is the monthly program, and then I have a deeper program called Soul Convergence, which is about healing our deepest wounds. And it's a very, very intense process. We're in the middle of it right now. But the amazing thing I see is that the more that people do the sessions, the more amazing their progress is. The people who are
Wow.
doing it, most people do it daily. Some people are doing it twice a day. It is, and it really is, it opens that connection. The angels come through and they're working on each person, both as a collective, but also very individually for what that person needs. And yeah, you see enormous, like amazing shifts in people.
Mm,
Amazing. Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. And
Yeah.
for the final trio, and the first one is the first two questions are personalized to you, and then the final one we ask at the end of every show. So the first one is, what is the most profound lesson that you have learned from your own channeled material?
Oh, gosh. I would say it is the consistent and persistent lesson of letting go, of being willing to step over the edge of the cliff without knowing where I'm going. It's learning how to walk the Dharmic path. And the way I've learned to do that is by letting my heart choose. And so I follow that. It takes an enormous amount of discipline to keep my head out of it, because I was brought up in a head culture, in a head family, But it is, every time I do something, I revisit it all the time, and I say, does this bring me joy? Like, is this doing this, of offering this, of doing this, or whatever it is, does it bring me joy? And joy is my North Star. That's what I navigate to. So if it's joyful, then I know I'm on the right path. If it is not joyful, then I stop doing it. And it does take discipline, but it creates an amazing life. And that's, I think, probably the most profound. It sounds so simple, but it is life-changing. It really is. Yeah. And it's accessible to everybody. Yeah.
It is. Beautiful. The second one is, how would you describe the concept of healing to a 5-year-old?
I love that. I would describe that as understanding that their feelings are good. Is to a 5-year-old, I would say that their feelings are sticky, and that if they hold on to them, those feelings get stickier and stickier, like taffy, and they stick to their ribs and they stick to their bones. And they say if they just let them have a space to breathe, then they can just move through them and go away. They can, and accept them, right? Move them out. And so I think I would express it like that, is I would try to help them to understand that their feelings are good. All their feelings are something to be understood and to be respected. Yeah.
Mm. Well, that explanation even works for me. I needed to hear that.
Awesome.
The last question that we have for this episode is, we call it the time capsule question. So it requires us to travel out a little bit into the future, around 15 or 20 years. The reason why I chose those dates is because in 15, 20 years, the current young generations are going to be stepping into more leadership positions around the world and really spearheading this new movement, this new shift that we're experiencing. And they're going to need a lot of guidance, support, wisdom for people that have come before them. So you will have an opportunity to have a time capsule for these leaders, and imagine they're all gathered in one space, and they walk up to your own time capsule. And when they open it, they're going to receive whatever you decided to put in there. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It could be a transmission, a frequency. It could be a teaching. Really limitless possibilities for what you can include, but something or some things that will allow them to be better leaders of the new earth and go into this shift in the best energy possible. What would you include in the time capsule?
Oh my gosh. I think I would include, I'd like to come up with something physical, but I think that the main teaching I would include would be, because 20 years from now, we will be deep into the shift, and we will be deep into the change that we're going through. And so I would say the most important thing at that point, that the concept of unity will be much more easy for them to understand. Like, they'll be in it. They'll have the energies. They'll be in a place where it's almost like we have a much deeper sense of telepathy with one another. And so the thing I would want to then do at that point, reaching back to me today, here, back 20 years before, is I would say, don't forget the lessons of separation. That once they've absorbed the concept of unity, don't forget, why was it important for humanity to go through the period of separation and to understand individual identity and to not lose that, right? To be able to learn to navigate unity while maintaining what we benefited from in terms of separation, that sense of individual will and our own individual desires.
Powerful. And on top of the time capsule, there's a gold plate with your name on it, and below you can encarve a question, a contemplative, reflective question for the leaders that they will see before they open it.
I would say the question is, what do you want?
What do you want? That's powerful. And thank you so much for your angelic healing frequencies, for really bringing the light into this conversation and all the projects and amazing work that you're doing. I look forward to continuing this co-creation, collaboration. We definitely need to get you back on and continue the conversation. So
Fantastic.
from the heart,
I love it.
appreciate
It's so
you.
much fun. So fun to spend the morning with you. Thank you.
Much love.